This week on The Futurists, Andre Vellozo.
We envision a world where your bank is going to get to you and it's going to tell you, Brad, you trust me with the custody of your money for the last 20 years. Would you trust me with the custody of your data?
Welcome back to The Futurist, guys. I am your host, Brett King. We are the #1 futurist podcast on the planet, so thank you for joining us once again. It's great to be here. I want to talk today about one of the sides of AI and automation that we don't often get into, which is how large-scale AI and automation is going to affect the way we think about data, at least from a regulatory perspective. Now, we do talk about things like IP protection with AI and things like this. Robert is often talking about these models that are, going out, being trained on all of this content. But there's a separate movement to really start thinking about the way we use data, the way we categorize data, the way maybe we monetize data in the future. And at the heart of this revolution, because it's going to power the AI revolution, is a company and a CEO that I thought I'd bring on today for you guys to meet. He is the CEO of a company called Drumwave. His name is Andre Vellozo. Andre founded Drumwave in 2015, initially offering data management services. He emerged as the CEO and the founder of this, particularly launching the data savings account at Money 2020 USA in Vegas, 2024. And this was the launch of the D-Wallet platform. We are going to get into that. Previously, Drumwave was part of General Magic HQ. He's been named one of the 100 most innovative people of Latin America from Bloomberg. He's he's got awards and patents in many countries around the world, including Brazil, Hong Kong, and the US. But let me introduce you to the man himself, Andre Vellozo. Welcome to The Futurists.
Hi, Brad. Thank you for having us here. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you on, brother. First of all, before we start getting into Drumwave and the D-Wallet and so forth, one of the more interesting elements of the lead up to this enterprise you've created is that you have been involved in some pretty interesting elements of potential legislation in Brazil. We are all familiar with the GDPR regulations in Europe, but one of the core problems of that is it's good if you want to get rid of data and be forgotten, as a standard. But in terms of being able to utilize your own data, monetize your own data and so forth, the GDPR is pretty light. And your position is, if I can state it, and feel free to correct me, is that in the future, it's going to be far more important for people to own their own data, have ownership and control over data, than the types of protection that we have under law today. Because it's not about just protecting or fencing off your data. It's actually going to increasingly be about how data is utilized. And you worked with the Brazilian parliament on a draft of some legislation around this. It's not yet in law, as I understand, but this is... am I stating correctly sort of the position on how you think data is going to change in the future, the role of data in society?
Yeah, so you're correct. We've been evangelizing around many countries, not only Brazil. Data ownership, we believe, is the next step after privacy, because it's way easier for you to define privacy from ownership than the other way around. But the idea of privacy was super important to point the attention for the consumer, right? And what we think is going to happen is privacy it will evolve for the next step, and the next step of privacy, it will be ownership. But there are many points that society will need to deal with in order to give people data ownership rights. Because it's funny to say that it's already yours, right? You just need to have the means, the tools to be able to use it. And just to throw the ball to your court, just like if you keep your money in the bank and your data is in the cloud, you have autonomy of your data, of your money. You can do whatever you want with your money. You can withdraw your money, you can deposit, you can keep your money in your couch, and you have no autonomy of your data. Other people manage your data. Your data is in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
Zero autonomy.
Yeah.
So we believe that if data is an asset, the cloud is unregulated banking.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. Yeah. There's been some instances recently I've seen you guys have capitalized on in terms of your messaging. Particularly, there was the big issue, and it's a great illustration of the problem. There was a big issue when 23andMe recently filed for Chapter 11, because there was a very big fear that someone, with nefarious intent could come in a file sale situation, get access to all of that DNA data. And there's not much data that's more important for you to know who has it and, have some control over that than your own DNA, So, this could affect your credit rating in the future, your ability to access life insurance, all of these implications from this. So, I think that's a good example. How did you guys mobilize around that?
Well, we chose DNA as the kickoff of the US launch because your DNA is what makes you human. It's the only thing that makes you different than machines, right? And it's also your identity. So, and it's also data. It works like data. DNA can be combined, right? Can be it's you, right? And we launched the first request for data for your D wallet based on your DNA. So here now, U.S. citizens can request for data. But the fear during the Chapter 11 was that any other company, because there's no legal protection that in a bankruptcy court, anyone can buy the company, right? Anyone was able to purchase the company, and thank God that was not the case. But even an external country, right, with a company would be able to purchase, and those are like 15 million Americans' DNA data, right?
Yeah.
It's just like having the population with you, right?
Yeah, very, very big sample size, but it's sort of really interesting illustration because we have HIPAA, which prevents people from accessing your personal data in a hospital or medical treatment situation, theoretically. But this is exposing the weakness in that system. Even in a HIPAA situation, if a hospital went bankrupt and someone was buying them out, then they would get access to the data in just the same way as this 23andMe issue. So HIPAA really isn't a protection from your data being exposed. And as you pointed out, when it comes to DNA, your data is you. So, the implications that are pretty serious. What other use cases at the moment are you really talking about in terms of core data ownership that's critical?
We launched 3 this month. The first 3 consumer use cases, which was DNA data.
Yep.
You, right?
Number one.
The second one were share riding for the drivers. So imagine that share riding driver that has been. I just got one here. Just to come early to the office. I was talking to the driver, and he drives for the last 8 years. Average of like 10 hours a day. Every day.
That's a lot of data.
This guy is paying for the car, is paying for the gas, is paying for the insurance, for the maintenance. And for the last 8 years, he has been generating data, like tons of data, like driving behavior data, like like energy data for many different industries. And this data is being used right now to train the AI that is going to replace him.
Yeah.
So,
So true.
yeah. So what he can do now, he can request for data to the ride sharing company, and now he's gonna start to own this data. And when anyone else wants to train this, any other self-driving car or any other mobility solution, they will be able
to pay for his data.
Yes.
Or give him some other benefit in kind. All right, so that's the second example. What's the third one?
The third example is it's cars.
Okay.
Because we were building this first offer in a way that we can measure the correlation between the offers. So now you have self-driving cars and you have also cars, and we started with Tesla. So if you own a Tesla car, your car is a computer on wheels.
It's a data collection device, yeah.
And it's your data, my friend.
Yeah. Right? Well, you think about the level, like even the fact that it has a driver scoring system to determine whether you should be able to use the autopilot function as an example. That data has a high correlation with car insurance and the data they're looking for to determine your policy value, right? How aggressively you drive and so forth. I mean, so if you want, it'd be in an ideal situation where you say, I'll share the data, but, you have to guarantee me a lower, premium price or something like that, or getting some protection from that. So, it's interesting to think about. Let's talk about the data wallet itself, because we've talked around that. But what is D-Wallet?
D-Wallet, it's a combination of APIs. It's a platform. It's super simple. It allows you to onboard users, like personal accounts and business accounts. When you have a personal account, you're a person, right? Just like a bank. And if you have a business, you open a business account, and then you can use data, just like money. What business will do, and they're starting to do now, and we are pretty much happy with that, is it's a jump. We need to enrich products with data. That's something that nobody has ever articulated, because everything that you buy or sell, everything that you do, it generates data. But the data is a positive externality that it's not captured by anyone, not even by big tech. Like big tech is super focused. They have tons of data, but in the services, right, that they provide. Example, your complete block count. Like Google doesn't have it, right? It's yours. It's a lab that has it. So there are so many different dimensions of data that we are not even considering right now that will be able to be captured, managed through your D-Wallet. If you have a business or a personal account, right? And below the D-Wallet, we have the data savings plan, which is the core of everything that we are doing. It's easy to try to imagine this. If you remember phones, right? Phones were distributed by carriers with a data plan. So now imagine that you're gonna have the D-Wallet here with a data savings plan on top of your data plan.
Cool. So data savings, it's more just a value store analogy, right? Than but I guess the interest that the data accumulates is the revenue you earn off the data. I guess that's how you can think about it, right?
Correct. It's you compound in data, which is meaning, and then data savings plan, you match and contribute data with all the other companies that you have relationships with, and the data savings plan allocate the data, the value of the data in use cases, right? And those use cases, they monetize. So, and that goes back to your bank account as money.
Yeah. When I think about it in sort of these terms, where are you at in respect to, like from an infrastructure perspective, we're talking about a lot of data. Where is that going to be stored? If I put it into my data savings wallet, where does that sit? How can I understand that so I know that I'm not just going from one, company's platform to another? And then the second piece of it, from a data perspective, in terms of monetization, is there some early efforts on that where in those three use cases you talked about, there might be ways to, discern value?
Well, in order to be able to use data the same way you use money, right? But not money as store of value, right? To manage the value of this data, we needed to expand the stack and allow you to separate custody from hosting and issue a certificate. So D-Wallet is a non-custodial wallet.
Right.
And the data, that's the point. And the data savings plan, it manages the certificates. Data is stored in the business accounts in what we call reserve accounts.
Right.
So then through the certificates, you have the pointers to where the data reside. And you can access the data through API, through connecting to database, depending on the size, right? And the use case. Right? It's everything organized in a way pretty much like the financial system.
No, I can see this developing like the financial system in many ways, with data brokers and, secure data stores. Like, for example, I can imagine banks offering a data safety deposit box or something, so your data could be stored securely for your family in case something happened to you, so that they could have access to that as an asset, things like that. Even identity itself, what it means to be your identity, that is essentially core data. And often we don't own the identity data that is created on digital identity systems. That's another really good thing to think about, actually.
That's what we expect to happen. We envision a world where your bank is going to get to you and it's going to tell you, Brad, you trust me with the custody of your money for the last 20 years. Would you trust me with the custody of your data? Right? Oh, if you sign up for this data savings plan and allows me to represent you in the market, the only thing I can do as your banker for your data is to bring you the best offers. Right?
Interesting.
That's exactly.
It's banks seem a logical point in one way, but then being a data broker, it's a completely new skill set. I guess anyone could do it, right? Because, it's like there's no one that's really good at being a data broker today, because this is a job category that doesn't exist right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this is where AI can play, and we have some very cool stuff being cooked here that we may announce at the end of the next month for agentic AI and for our savings plans, which is applying AI to be able to negotiate very fast for you.
In technical terms, how do you extract data? For example, you talked about the example of 23andMe and the Uber driver or the rideshare driver. How can you extract that data? I can request it as an Uber driver, but what's the technical? Do I just do a commented delimited file dump? Do I send you? Because it's going to be in all different formats. How do you organize that when you extract it?
In order to do that, we needed to solve three things: data sovereignty, data fragmentation, and data ownership. The secret is that if you solve ownership, all the other two are automatically solved. So imagine that every time we talk about how to deal with data logistics, we do not count on data value. So when we separated the custody of of the data from the hosting of it is that we are allowing for the first transaction in this ecosystem, because we're going to drive it by transactions. So we start with the own transaction. If you cannot own it, you can't save it. So we need to allow you to own it. So how does it work? So a business account that owns like a DNA test, right?
Yep.
This DNA test contains data in it. It generates data when it has a relationship with you. And so those are like 3, 4, 5, 10 different data dimensions. So this business account will take ownership of the value schema for specific exome DNA, like health reports. And this value schema has a structure, and it's standardized because we only enable standards that already exists in the world. DNA is a standard; everybody has it, right?
Yeah.
Nutrition facts also a standard, right? Location is standard. So when a business wallet take ownership of this value schema, that looks like a domain in the web, pretty much, right? It will sign a certificate with the consumer that has bought the product. And then this certificate verifies the accounts, and certifies that they agree that they're generating this data in this relationship, and it set what we call shared custody rules. From now on, the next step is to save. So when a business wallet is ready to respond to requests for data and to save data with consumers, it will create what we call a business-ready data set inside of our infrastructure or their own infrastructure with our protocols. And at any time, this business-ready data set with this value schema generates a transaction, it will be stored in your account. So it's kind of like a credit card.
Interesting.
They don't move money. They move the value of money, right? Credit cards, they're not moving money. The banks are moving the money and the infrastructure for that. Credit cards, they move the information of money. So it's pretty much like that.
Yeah, that's true. Because the Visa and MasterCard networks are authorization networks for transferring money from one customer's bank account to the merchant's bank account, essentially. Yeah.
That's what a D-Wallet does. It allows users to send, receive, accept, or reject offers that combine transfer money and data simultaneously.
Very cool. So we normally do this piece as we go to break, Andre, which we call our lightning round, just to let our listeners get to know you a bit better. So let's do that. It's a little bit different, though. This week, I'm not going to do the full sort of sci-fi futurist approach because, I'm going to try and make it about data. So here we go. This is the lightning round. What was the first time you remember understanding the concept of data?
So back in 1996, I founded a company that allowed you to create a post, like a Web 2 post back in 1996. And I was making the first post. And no one has ever done a post. And when I sat at a computer to make a post, I thought, gee, this is a bank. Because I'm depositing here my image, my curriculum, and my opinions, my actions in the world. This is going to be huge, but nobody's going to understand that.
Yeah, true.
So that was the first time.
What technology do you think has most changed humanity?
Oh, TCP/IP.
It's a CPIP, packet exchanger. Okay, that's cool. We've never had that before, so that's a good one. Name a entrepreneur or someone that has influenced you in your career, and why?
Claude Shannon. I'm completely obsessed by Claude Shannon.
Very cool. Very cool. I thought you were going to say Scott, but he's more.
Scott is a mentor.
Yeah.
Man, if we can talk about him, it's just like this guy is a crazy amazing, and he's honest as hell. And imagine, Sun has pumped the whole web and the whole open source movement.
Yeah.
Right? And Scott always said that I'm a rageous capitalist, right? That has created the whole open source world, right? It's a little conflict, but it's funny to see it. And he has helping a lot, right?
So you're talking, of course, about Scott McNealy, who was the co-founder of Sun Microsystems back in 1982, right? So
yeah, it's an amazing company.
Cool. Okay, last one for the lightning round. What future is most representative of, or what part of data is most representative in forming our future? How is data going to change our future?
Because data, everybody used to try to define its source, right? If it's some people said that data is a commodity, some people used to think that data is money, and I think the quality of data that is the most important one is that
oil.
All those images. It's a lack of language to describe what it really is, and data is your relationships. The only thing that generate data are relationships, right. and that's what it is. Yeah.
Fantastic. Listen, Andre, let's take a quick break, and then we want to get into the big future of how a D-wallet and how data and AI and machine readable stuff is going to change the planet. So stay tuned. You're listening to The Futurists. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, this is Rob Tursik from the Futurist Podcast, which is part of the Provoked Media Network. I'm excited to tell you about some news. The Futurist is expanding into the real world. We're doing a live event in Dubai. Now, folks who listen to the Futurist Podcast, you're going to be familiar with the fact that my co-host, Brett King, has been working very hard in Dubai and other parts of the Middle East for a long time. And for more than a year, he's been putting together this event, and now with the help and support of MasterCard and Emirates MBD and many other partners, we are putting together the world's largest futurist meeting in Dubai. It will take place at the fabulous Jumeirah Beach Hotel in Dubai, and it'll be on the September 22nd and 23rd this year. So just a few weeks from now. The speakers are going to include some of the world's leading futurists and forecasters and future thinkers. People like Brian Cox and astronaut Scott Kelly. And of course, Brett and I will be there to conduct interviews and introduce some of the other folks. We've got speakers from around the world. And if you're interested in meeting futurists in person and participating in an event that attracts the future-minded, please join us on the 22nd and 23rd of September. You can learn more about it at futuristevent.com. That's futurist singular event.com. It's all one word, futuristevent.com. And that'll tell you all about the event. I sure hope to see you there in Dubai on the 22nd and 23rd of September. Thanks.
Well, welcome back to The Futurists. I'm your host, Brett King, and we are speaking to the CEO and founder of Drumwave, and of course their platform D-Wallet, and that's Andre Vellozo. Andre, let's talk, let's get into the future a bit and how you envisage this sort of panning out. What's it going to look like in 5 or 10 years? How is our relationship with data going to be monetized, and what's the role of AI in that?
I think we're going to live through the next 5 years like the most important revolution in history of our lives, and maybe in the history of history. Right? Since the mobile revolution that has connected everyone, and the AI revolution that we feel that we are living in, right? We're going to see that if the data revolution happens, the data ownership revolution happens, it will be the missing link between the mobile and the AI revolution. The truth is, no one needs data. We don't need data. No human being needs data. You don't need data. I don't need data. There's no one that needs
the
data.
AI needs the data.
But machines need data. And who produces data? Hello? Humans.
Yes, we do.
We produce data, right? So machine, do you want data? Pay me, right?
Yeah.
That's how it.
So that's actually interesting because we talk a lot about the fact that machines could take our jobs. What we don't talk about very much is how machines might create additional revenue opportunities for humans, right? Or side gigs, if in sort of today's vernacular or terminology. But that's really interesting to think about. The more and more AI we put in the system, the more potential there is for people to monetize their data.
Completely agree, but I also think and feel that there's a threshold, right? There's like a biological threshold for everything that we're experiencing right now. Like the day has 24 hours, right? I think we're starting to feel that, well, you can optimize to a certain level. And through the last 40 years, my experience and what we are working on here is that companies and consumers, we have been separated from the value of the data that we create with our relationships. And that's key because companies have been paying for efficiency, right?
Right.
And consumers for convenience. Efficiency, convenience, and you got separated from the value of the data.
Yeah.
So we need to reconnect companies and consumers to the value of the data that they create. Otherwise, if you look to the Fortune 200 company, the list, right, you're going to see that there's a few companies on the top and there's like 190 below, and there's nothing that a company that is down there in the list can do today, even if they buy AI, which is not firing people, right, or making cheaper products that will help the market cap value of those companies to grow, because technology is sucking the value out of the system,
right,
by the technology premium that stock, right? And this is not good because those are products we eat, dress, sleep in. Those are houses, clothes, like food.
And we're about to start using AI agents that are going to be out automating giving our data away. It's pretty crazy to think about it in that way.
I'm afraid of the easy yeses, right? Because we have always a question that drops you to a easy yes, right? And I have many friends in conversations that we live in a digital world, right? We don't. We live in a physical world, right? Those easy yeses are like creating more confusion than anything else, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the role of autonomy in this respect. And if we are having, this is one of the things that sort of got me thinking in this conversation is, as we start to use AI to reshape customer service. So let's think about it this way. What we've normally had to do is when we're thinking about a customer experience or a product or something like that, we go through this long design process. But when it comes to interactions in a real-time environment with AI, we're going to be building systems that are very responsive to human needs, particularly if an AI is filtering that and, trying to meet our needs and understands our behavior in a unique way. So truly the market of one, we talk about this. But in that process of AI doing all of this large-scale automation, it's fed off data. That's really at the heart of this. So, when is that crunch going to come? When people say, well, hang on a second, it's my data and it's powering this revolution. And yes, I'd love the convenience and the tailored aspect of AI services, but in order for me to give you my data and for that to happen, I need certain guarantees, and maybe I need, some value out of it, value exchange, right?
It's right here. It's everywhere since 2022 when Apple said privacy, that's iPhone. From that day, it was May 2022 to now, like a few years later, 2 years after that, you got the whole world, every website, every application you touch, you see a widget telling you accept all, reject all. And it looks for us that this is nothing, it's just friction, right? But what this thing has produced is that everyone in the world now, they know that data has value. Because you need to see that. It's education, free education.
Okay, so your argument is we're on that spectrum. It's already happening to some extent. The next step is to negotiate, contractual data relationships.
And the next step is that everybody is also aware that data has value, and they know that companies monetize their data. So you can see that consumers are now wondering, how much is it worth? Right? So consumer awareness is on the table, which is the most important thing. Then you have regulation on the table. You can see what is happening around, even from AI and the Reddit case and New York Times, right? Everybody's talking about regulating the outcomes of AI. And we used to say that if you regulate the input, which is data ownership, all the outputs are regulated automatically, right? And the third thing that you need is to have technology convergence, which is we have plenty happening right now. So I really believe that people are smart. We're smart, crazy smart. And if we can tell people, the respond like 2 simple questions, those are the questions that we mapped here, and everyone is doing, right? It's what data and how much is it worth, right? This is what's necessary to make it happen.
I want to think about, as we continue in this endeavor, and we look at, this part of the show, we like to sort of talk about the long future, so 20, 30 years from now, potentially. What sort of structures are going to be in place for organizing data, and what sort of compute and what sort of storage capacity are we going to need for this level of automation around data? It would appear that the demands for compute and storage alone are going to be pretty considerable.
I can see that by 2030, we're gonna have implemented what we call a new social license to operate. And for the social license to operate, new social structure, it needs to be implemented. And it's not about centralizing or decentralizing. That's all we can talk about it. Everything's like polarized. It's about what we're going to centralize and where we're going to centralize, and what we're going to decentralize and where we're going to decentralize, breaking down the big blocks that we are dealing with today in smaller blocks, and between consumers, between governments, between big tech and big finance around data, right? And the infrastructure and the architecture for this thing to happen, it doesn't exist inside what we have now.
Right.
It's a expansion of the stack. So we are in this polarized language trying to find inside the infrastructure and the license to operate that we have today a solution that is not contained inside this. We need to expand the stack. We did a new infrastructure, and we need social entities that are able to deal with what is coming.
So what are the new sort of macro institutions, and what's the new regulatory framework around this look like?
We need a regulator, and a regulator that can regulate this the value of data. Yeah. Yep. And it's not the same thing of regulating money. It looks like it, but it's not. So what I can see is a fusion of BIS with ICANN and maybe Java body, regulator body, or Android, like a mix of those three, four things together. Then we need, of course, an operator, which is a Swift for data that behaves like a Swift, right? And as a base for that, you need to have like the manager of the value, and if all those things can be put in place, and there's a lot of people working for that to happen right now all over the world, you're going to be retired when you're born. You know, Hans Moravec, the AI robotics pioneer, he used to say that when automation gets to the point that
before you're born,
you're yeah. So that's
the world of abundance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, Andre. Well, listen, it's been fascinating to delve into D-Wallet and get a little bit more information. You are live now in the US, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. For the first time.
So how do people get their own data wallet, their own data savings account?
They go to dna.drumwave.com to get their DNA data. Share writer go to drivers.drumwave.com, and if you own a Tesla, you can go to auto.drumwave.com, open your wallet, request for data, and start to own.
Fantastic. Andre Vellozo, thanks for joining us on The Futurist today.
Thank you, Brad.
That's a wrap. So, guys, thank you for listening. Really interesting conversation. Data is going to be in everything that we do over the next couple of decades and moving on. It's going to be really interesting to see how the systems develop to accommodate that. If you like the show, make sure to leave us a like, give us a shout out on social media, tell your friends about us. All of that helps get us traction for the show. And as usual, let's give a shout out to the Provoke Media team, Kevin Hershen and Lisbeth Severins, who produce the show for us each week. That's it for me. I'll be back with Rob next week. And until then, we'll see you in the future.
Well, that's it for The Futurists this week. If you like the show, we sure hope you did. Please subscribe and share it with the people in your community. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. That really helps other people find the show. And you can ping us anytime on Instagram and Twitter at Futurist Podcast for the folks that you'd like to see on the show or the questions that you'd like us to ask. Thanks for joining. And as always, we'll see you in the future.